this is our April 5th, 2021 work session of Swarthmore Borough Council. Welcome everybody. I wanted to mention at the outset that we will be adjourning into executive session at the end of the regular meeting to talk about a personnel matter and also to talk about a union contract negotiation. So let's have a roll call. Mr. Carey?
Here.
Ms. McKinney?
Here.
Mr. Schmucky?
Here.
Ms. Graydon?
Here.
Ms. Larson?
Here.
Ms. Gajewski?
Here.
Mayor Spiegel?
I am here.
Borough Manager Billings?
Here.
And our Solicitor Bob Scott.
Good evening.
All right, thank you everyone for coming. Public comment. Now is your chance. If you have anything you'd like to talk to Borough Council about and you are a resident or I'll say a business owner, taxpayer in the borough, now is your chance. So please just state your name and your address for us because that will go in the minutes. Anyone?
Dottie's raising her hand.
I didn't see that. Dottie, you have to take yourself off mute.
Okay, can you?
Yes.
All right.
Ma'am, go ahead.
All right. First of all, this is me talking, not my husband. Okay. I listened to I guess it was public safety meeting and the Borough Council meeting last month. It had to be public safety, talking about the need for a business to be connected to Central Station with their fire and alarm systems. And from what I understand, the borough can only expect a business to connect to Central Station when the business changes hands, or a new business comes in and rents from someone. And Rick has done a really good job of explaining to me that the government can't command that all businesses be connected to Central Station. But I, as the wife of a firefighter, number one. Number two, I've lived in the town since I was 19 years old. And I feel very strongly that it is for the public good that every business uptown, whether it's a restaurant or a real estate company or a cleaners, I don't care, but if they're connected to another building uptown, they all should be connected. Their fire alarms should be connected to Central Station for the safety of the entire district. I understand that it probably can't happen, but I want to go on record saying I think it should happen. Every business uptown should have to be connected directly to the fire company for the safety of everyone uptown. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. Dottie, what's your address again?
Oh, sorry, 305 Chestnut Avenue, Swarthmore.
Okay. I think when Jill does her committee report, she'll touch on that in more detail. So Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Am I missing any hands? No? All right. We do have another public comment session at the end of this meeting, so if anybody would like to speak, they get another opportunity. Thank you, everybody. Moving on, I'm going to go out of order a little bit with what's under president. So going to the bottom of that, the ban on the gas-powered leaf mowers, that was because someone here, a resident, reached out to me, and I thought he was going to dial in tonight. He has not done that. He did not ask me to read his email. I'm letting somebody in. It's not him. So I'm not going to do that. But the gist of it was he and his wife are home during the pandemic, working during the day. And he has noticed this proliferation of gas-powered noisy leaf blowers during the day, during the week. So the ordinance that we have on the books would not cover that because it's about noises that start, and I think they can't start until after 8 a.m. or after 8:30 a.m. on the weekend, so it's not really on point. So the reason I stuck it under a president was just to say to people on council, if there is an appetite for looking into this further or adding something about it, I don't know where I would put that, letting people in, either general government, it sounds like general government, maybe it's public safety, but I really just wanted to put it out there and see if people wanted to take that on, and I was hoping he would call in and talk about it, but it looks like he's not going to. Thoughts from Sarah or Jill, maybe, since those are your committees?
So would this be regulating the time when leaf blowers are allowed to be used in the borough, changing timing?
It's really a ban. He was looking for a ban, and he had sent an article, which I admit I kind of read in a fast way, about another town not in Pennsylvania that did an outright ban because of the noise. So he's looking for a ban.
I mean, if you would like to come to a general government meeting and talk with us some more about what his thoughts are, you know, you can have him talk to us. But otherwise, I don't know what Jill thinks about whether it would be in her.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm certainly interested in hearing more about what this individual has to say. I have my own personal thoughts about banning things, but we're always open to hearing what's on their minds.
Well, maybe, and that's why I asked him come tonight to talk to us, but maybe something else came up. So what I will do is oh, Betsy? Yes.
I have a feeling that the EAC would be very much in favor of a ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. I know it's been discussed in the past, so it might even be worth taking it to the Environment Committee. I'm not sure, but...
Okay. Lauren, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, someone approached me about that a few months ago. I think I've heard little grumblings, here and there about that for a long time.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I will email Mr. Lubecker. It's not secret information that he emailed me, and I will send around the article that he sent me, and I will invite him. I'm going to say to go to general government because we're talking about an ordinance, but also if he would like to broach it with the EAC or environment, he's welcome to do that. But I think that it would be good if he came to one of the meetings, dialed into one of the meetings, and talked to you about what his concerns are. So let's just start with general government. Does everybody agree with that? For lack of a better, yeah, we'll do general government. All right, thank you, Sarah. I'll just redirect him your way, and I'll send an email out. Skipping back up, public statements by Borough Council and our social media policy. So we adopted this policy a few years ago. I had asked Jane to send it out to everybody again. I hope you had a chance to look at it. So I think we have two issues. I think we're trying to, and it seems like a long time ago now, but it really wasn't, but we're trying to figure out where this policy does not state anything expressly about Borough Council members can't put things on their Facebook page. We're not trying to say that. But I think we need to decide two things. Whether we wait for the borough to make an official announcement, if that should be in the policy, if people want to see that in there. And then there was also a secondary issue, which is what constitutes an emergency, for lack of a better word, when we are confronted with someone on council or the mayor wants to make some sort of official announcement to the public, and it's at night or it's on the weekend. What is the procedure for that? Should that be part of the social media policy? How does that work? So we're sort of not asked to do something without having enough time to think about it, asked to do something without being able to make sure we have all the borough council members around and we're able to get in touch with them, and also trying to avoid situations where we're in a hurry to do something. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but we operate in this sort of, maybe it is rigid environment. We have public meetings that we are required by law to have. We have committee meetings, and then outside of that, things do happen outside of those meeting times, but we're required by the Sunshine Act to do things in public. So I said a lot there. I think everybody gets the gist of what I'm trying to say. So I'm looking for input from the other council members. Lauren, thank you.
Well, I'd like to add another question. Can the HRC, and Sarah, think about this, can the HRC write a response, like in particular, to a sort of crisis that pops up? Can they write a response and speak for the HRC? I mean, we appointed them and they're very capable and they're really good at that. How does the HRC and the Borough Council work together? So a couple of weeks ago when that statement came along, I felt like I was asked to approve a statement that I had no input into, and it was supposed to be from us. So I'd sort of prefer either the HRC come up with something themselves and say the HRC is saying this, or that they help us come up with something that we have input in, and then we produce it in our usual sort of slow-ish way, when we have a meeting. So that's my input.
Thank you. Sarah, do you want to address the part about the HRC?
Sure. I mean, I think it's pretty complex and also kind of simple, right? So I think this particular incident was born from the HRC has in the past put out statements just as the HRC, and they felt as though that it was important for it also to be coming from the borough, from the council, from the mayor. And so they wanted to push to have the statement signed onto by council and the mayor, to make it, it has more legitimacy, right? When it comes not just from a few people who've been appointed, but also people who've been elected to represent residents. And so I think that is how this started, right? Where there was a meeting and they came up with a statement and to support Asian Americans during what's been going on, and they felt it was important to pass it on to council and the mayor to get them to sign on. And so what happened after that, a lot of people were making statements, things were happening fast, and when I sent it along, just to inform everyone else who's not aware of what happened, I sent it along to council and the mayor and said this is what the HRC would like for council and the mayor to sign on to. And, at that point, it was, we asked Bob Scott, the solicitor, if this was okay to talk about, because it's not a public meeting. And he told us that it was okay, and I think he could speak to why that was okay. And then, we waited for everybody to respond. And then once everybody responded, I wanted to push it out, and I was hoping, everybody would push it out. And so I did, and I did before the borough pushed it out on their Facebook page because I was just quick to do it. I was excited. And I thought it was a really good move because it was the first time council has actually signed on to any statement like this in support of any community. So it felt like a big deal. And I understand that we need to work on the process. I understand that, to figure out how to streamline, how to get information out there. And I hear what Mary is saying, like what constitutes, not an emergency necessarily, but like what constitutes some urgency in getting it out quickly, that we can't wait 2 weeks to talk about it in a meeting and put out like a resolution maybe instead of a statement or something else. So I think this discussion is definitely worth having, but that's the background as to what happened and why the HRC didn't want just to put out their statement. They wanted they wanted council and the mayor to sign on to it, and council and the mayor did, so that part was good. Did I address these issues?
Yes, thank you. You did, Sarah. Anybody else want to weigh in? Betsy.
Yeah, I am not always on email all the time, and I don't really use social media very much either. So, for me, I think the thing I'd really like to address is, what you said, Mary, about what defines an emergency, and when we need to use email this way to get something done in an emergent fashion, and sort of also protocols for that too, because I think everybody else was on board long before I got the email. And so, like what would be a criteria, does it require a quorum? Does everyone have to be involved? I think there are a lot of details that need to be worked out around, how we're going to address things if we need to use email going forward. So I guess I'm a little more concerned about the general issue here about the process of what happened more specifically than this actual incident, which I think, we were all happy with the outcome.
I think the reason Bob, and he can speak, said it was okay to use email in this particular instance was because, in a way, this really was not borough related. We weren't expending tax dollars. We were not passing legislation. So I wouldn't say, and again, he can speak and I keep talking. Go ahead.
Well, I think if I recall correctly, I said this is a gray area, but what I concluded was this was not a discussion about borough business. This was unrelated to borough business. You're not spending borough money, passing laws, hiring, firing. It was a statement on a national tragedy. I did not regard it as being a problem to discuss something like that for purposes of making a statement in opposition to a criminal activity. Others, somebody mentioned passing a resolution to make a statement about stuff. That requires a vote. That is not something that I think you could, I don't think you could pass a resolution by email discussion. This is, as I said, it really wasn't a statement about borough business, so I kind of concluded that it's a gray area, it's permissible. I don't know, it's hard to tell you the next time I got asked that question if it's really kind of fact specific about what it is that's being discussed. So I don't know that I have a whole lot more that's useful to share. Other than it's a fact by fact call.
Well, I think, speaking for myself, I look at my emails probably too much, but that's just me. It's just a habit. So I did say to people, I think you should try to check your email at least once a weekend. But that's, me. And I get that not everybody wants to be on the grid on their own time. I get that. But I get to that. I don't want people to feel rushed to decide something because there's sort of some imaginary clock running in some ways, and this is not a criticism, this is my own observation. I think we sort of missed an opportunity to make a statement because we didn't really make a statement. It wasn't in a council meeting, it wasn't in a resolution. I think it was on a Saturday night, I don't quite remember. But just to shortcut this so we're not sort of talking about it for the next half hour, I'm thinking maybe can we give the social media policy and this process, again, Sarah, can we throw it over to general government to take a look at it and think about it some more? And maybe, Bob, you could think about it some more for us, because I think maybe what I'd like to say, everybody, is if we can err on the side of waiting for a council meeting, I think we should always try to do that. Obviously, this year in the pandemic, that all moved at lightning speed, and we had to have a phone call and an emergency declaration and a vote to figure out what to do about the borough and meetings and all of that. No one could doubt that was truly an emergency. It's not that this wasn't important, this statement, but maybe it could have waited a day or two, which is kind of a moot point now. But maybe let's just try collectively to try to do things on the schedule that we're on when possible.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I couldn't tell if I talked over you or not. But,
No.
one thought I had just now is I understand, Betsy's issue of not, being on email, and it's not really fair for somebody to say something in your name if you haven't had the chance to review it. I think in retrospect, maybe what I should have recommended is that everybody who has their own social media could post that in their own name on their own social media pages. I don't think that it is essential that it be on the boroughs. And maybe if it's going to be on the boroughs, it needs to take the time to be at a meeting. And in the meantime, you all have First Amendment rights to say whatever you want to say. You could say that Swarthmore Human Relations Commission has issued this statement, and I stand behind it 100% on an individual basis. I don't think it needs to be necessarily fast-tracked to the borough's website.
Okay.
But
I would just have to say, though, that, if that happened, the counter argument is it dilutes the power of the statement. Because if it's, I love that it was unanimous, by the way, for anybody wondering. This was unanimously supported by everybody on council. Now, I just think that, and I understand we can't speak for everybody on council. Just because we shouldn't do that. But I don't know. It's just how I feel about it.
Ross, you're on mute.
One thought I have, because this comes up all the time with boards, like I've served on 3 other boards, where like the head of a school, schools often issue statements on these things, and then the board has to get involved. So it's not the same because it's not government and it doesn't have sunshine laws, but the Human Relations Commission is statutorily, by ordinance, delegated authority. So it seems like there's a certain amount that they can do. These things are coming up, and they may come up again. I would just suggest it's possible that the HRC could kind of prepare, kind of like, I don't want to call it boilerplate, because that's insulting, but there's certain statements that might be common to these things that you can bring in in advance to a council meeting and say, this is the kind of language that we're going to be using in the future. And then, they could plug in whatever is unique to the, I hate to say that these things are going to happen again, do you know what I mean? But that could be done as a thing, and then have us all approve like kind of more of a generic statement against hate and racism and all of that could be then, not to be, that would then expressly authorize HRC to have that in their back pocket.
Well, Bob, are they not statutory? You were waving your hand. What? You're on mute.
I was waving my hand at my daughter who came in the door, saying that I was on mute. So,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, unrelated to.
Ross said it's statutory and you were like,
Sorry, unrelated to the
I'm
question.
sorry. Okay, it was a daughter wave. Go ahead, Ross, I'm sorry.
Well, that's all. Just, I mean, we don't have to like do this or not right now. We can continue to work on this, and HRC can come back with us, and we can give them some, you know, we can authorize some language that they have in their back pocket, you know, that they could say, yeah, the boroughs, and then we come in and, you know, you say it in between and the emergency based on that, and then you come into this meeting, which is a platform, and then you validate it at this meeting, and then you, what's it called when you approve it afterwards?
Ratify.
Then you ratify it and state it afterwards, and they have a pretty good sense that it's going to be ratified because we already kind of talked about it before.
Right, well, I will just throw in, and we don't have to talk about this now, but I always thought the HRC was supposed to be sort of more independent from Borough Council, because I thought there might come a time, you know, they might want to critique us on something. And I didn't want to put them in a position of coming to us to approve what they say, because they might say, we don't like your ordinances, we think they are discriminatory or something. So they are not, they're supposed to be at arm's length from us a little bit, but that's neither here nor there for this discussion. So,
Can I
Sarah, yes.
add to that? Because I agree with what you and Ross are saying about this, but in the fact that I think you're right. I think that's kind of, I think where some of the confusion came in about this process, and now that we know that, I mean, this is going to happen again. Unfortunately, this is the reality we live in, where, you know, there are hate crimes happening in communities that we have to support time and time again. So getting a general statement of what we support here as a body, as a borough, as a council is, I think, important. But I also think with what you're saying, Mary, like, that's why they wrote the statement as strongly as they wanted, with the language that they wanted, and they wanted to ask and make sure to ask everybody else to sign on. But it was their statement, right? We signed on to their statement. And I don't know what that made the statement then, right? Like, what did that turn the statement then into our statement as well? That was the hope of the HRC, is that we would own it also. But they did draft it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of push-pull. Definitely.
What I had hoped it would be a joint statement, which is what I agree with you. I thought that's what they were looking for. And then we all said yes. And Betsy, just so you know, we did wait for everyone. There was no way we were going to say yes if everybody hadn't had a chance to see it. So we did do that. That's only fair. But a joint statement that I thought the HRC was going to, I don't know, call the Swarthmorian or put it in the Daily Times. We put it on the borough website, and then we can all share away. But to me, a statement is a statement from the entity. Me saying, hey, the HRC and council made a statement and I put it on my Facebook page just isn't, I think, giving it the impact it deserves. It's one thing to share it after the fact, but I think having talked this out, I think now we're just all mindful that we're going to try as much as we can to work this into the meeting schedule if this comes up again. I think that's what needs to be done.
Mary, just to come back to your original question, because more frequently the issues that come up are ones of public safety, emergency public safety. I mean, the police are having to go on, a not small number of times to talk about traffic accidents, avoiding intersections, snow emergencies, trees down. So, I mean, I think that it would bear for us to speak and discuss at some point, not here necessarily, about what constitutes the kind of emergency that would require us to go on to social media and let people know something is going on in the community that they need to be aware of, and we cannot wait until a meeting takes place or we get consensus from everybody to make sure that takes place. So we can do that in a public safety meeting. We can do it however you feel is most effective. I don't mean for us to take a lot of time to do it tonight, but I think it is important.
Thank you, Marty. Sarah, how about we put it in general government?
I'll take it all. Keep throwing it my way.
Why not? It fits. I mean, it's a policy, it's an ordinance, so
Yeah,
let's
no,
put
I
it
hear you. And that's what we worked on that ordinance. I mean, we worked on that social media policy
the first time. That's right. So thank you. So thank you for the thoughtful discussion, because it's not easy. We try.
Yeah.
The people in TV land, we're trying here. Okay, moving right along. The opening of Borough Hall and the amphitheater. So, Jane, the library opened or opens tomorrow?
Today.
Oh, it's today. That makes sense.
And their schedule is they're open at 9:30 to 6, Monday, Tuesday. Sorry, they're not open on Tuesday. Monday. On Wednesday, they're open 9:30 to 7. On Thursday, they're open 9:30 to 7. On Friday, they're open 9:30 to 5. And on Saturday, they're open at 10 and 1 p.m. On Tuesday, they wanted to have a day when people who did not wanted to schedule appointments could have their own day. So those days, the front doors to Borough Hall are open. I would recommend that we open them, including that Tuesday. I think it's a little confusing for people to have one day when they can't get to the borough office. We'll still have a sign on the door to social distance and to wear a mask. We're actually getting quite a bit of foot traffic now, and we're up at the door all the time. So it's not really going to change our exposure very much. I am not recommending personally that the meeting rooms be open. I don't think the governor has yet said that unlimited meetings of people are allowed or advisable, and we don't really control to any great extent how many people attend a meeting at the various rooms. We have room capacities, but they're quite large. So I would recommend that we continue not opening the meeting rooms. I do think we can open the restrooms. We have somebody cleaning them every day. I don't think that's a problem. And we have a lot of people using the amphitheater right now, so I personally think that can be, it's outside, and that would be my recommendation to open that as well.
Okay. Discussion.
Just one. I know Al Federico's on the call, and he and I had a conversation about Memorial Day. And while it's not a government-sponsored event, the Boy Scouts really do it now. It does require us to close down streets, and so I think it behooves the council to be aware, and if there's any concerns, that they are able to voice their concern. That would happen obviously on the day of Memorial Day. We still have a month and a half or more, almost 2 months before that day comes, and hopefully things will have changed from a COVID perspective by then. But I just want to get your read on whether or not anybody has any concerns about the Boy Scouts going ahead and planning the Memorial Day festivities or celebrating commemoration the way they normally would.
Assuming that we're still doing okay here, I would think it would be okay, but I think we should kind of yes to that, but let's talk about what we're doing more immediately, which is opening Borough Hall. Betsy and Sterling.
Yeah. Everyone, all of the administrative folks have been fully vaccinated at this point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I think that's an important consideration for me. The other question that you're bringing up for me is the concept of retrofitting our ventilation systems for the Borough Hall, for the building, which, I know that it's recommended that the schools do this. I don't know if there might be money for doing this in the new federal aid package that passed, but at least going forward, that would be my concern. I understand, because even with the bathrooms, I know they're clean, but the air in there is kind of trapped in there. So if we were able to upgrade the ventilation systems, that would certainly be a big points for me going forward in terms of opening the whole building. In the meantime, I agree with you. The library is an act. There are people coming in and out from the library. I think it would be a lot easier on you guys if you could stay in your seats and not have to run and open the door every 15 minutes. So I would be in favor of it. I'd just like to, see if we can address the ventilation issue.
We did have our HVAC contractor out, and we do have extra filters and whatever we could do in the library. Some of the rooftop units that we have apparently could not be retrofitted or somehow adapted to that, but I can certainly ask what more would be needed. Is it an entire replacement of the unit? I don't know what it was. But the library asked for that some time ago because they opened up, and so they are, I don't know exactly what it is, but they have better ventilation, they have the better filters, they were able to do that with their existing unit.
Great. Yeah, I mean, if there's, and again, if there's federal money to upgrade any of those systems,
Sure.
Thank you.
Ross.
So I'm hearing that just what the manager has said, that the meeting rooms would not be open. The door to the building would open. I'm guessing, Jane, that you're saying the bathrooms would be accessible. That's part of it. Are we saying that the building would not be okay for congregation? You know how people come in and bring their laptops and sit at that table in the back, or they get together and do whatever. I don't know, whatever. I'm not coming down one way or another. I'm just trying to clarify. Are we saying, are people allowed to congregate or not?
I think we have different comfort levels. The library is actually not encouraging congregating in the library. It's a brisk browse, and I think they're still calling it brisk browse. So let me just see. Contactless brisk browse visits are limited to 30 minutes. Appointments are strongly encouraged for computer use. But that does mean that they are letting people sit at those computers for 30 minutes. I guess it's your choice. I'm comfortable with people in the lobby as long as they are socially distancing. We can put up signs, wear a mask, socially distance, or right here. If people aren't doing that, I'm comfortable asking them to leave, to go outside.
So if it's like a cold day and 6 teenagers want to come in and hang out in the warmer hallway, that's okay?
Well, it's probably the opposite now, but same idea. A hot day and they might want to come inside.
For air conditioning.
Yeah.
And we're still requiring masks.
Yes. Yes. Nobody has a comfort level without masks.
Right. Ray, I'd like to know what Ray thinks because the police station is part of this building.
Thank you, Mary. We have been entertaining people who have had some business with the police department. They come out back, even though the borough hall is locked. We have a doorbell that we have been bringing them in and dealing with accident reports or whatever other situations that they have. So I'm perfectly okay with it.
Thank you. Rick, even though you're not really the borough, you're in the building. Got any thoughts?
No, we are still closed at this point. Things are getting better. We will be working always with council and Jane to determine what is best for the building. We have our staff, crew staff, and employees only during the day and at night, and volunteers are responding to calls and leaving afterwards. So we don't have any birthday parties or anything like that going on, and won't be until everybody feels most comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Who else has a thought on this? This one's important.
And sorry, I guess my other thought with the public spaces is can we lock the meeting rooms? I know the little ones can be locked. But the people are going to come in and congregate, are they likely to also congregate in the council room, or can that be locked off?
I think we're going to leave up the sign right now that says do not enter, and that prevents people from going in there. Now, it also prevents them from going in the bathroom. But if they ask to use the bathroom, we'll tell them that it's fine. I think we can see how that goes. I mean, it's pretty severe looking right now. It's big tape, and it says do not enter. But the rooms cannot be locked. So we'll have to, I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if it's a problem. We don't have, in the past, we have not, when the rooms are in use, it's usually because they're scheduled to be used. If we have somebody who comes in to do some work in one of the rooms, it's usually one or two people. It's often a college student, and they're not supposed to be leaving campus. We don't see them too much, not as much as we used to anyway. So I think we're able to keep an eye on that for now and see how it goes.
Jill?
Yeah, I have not been to any of the county office buildings, and I'm wondering how those are operating now. Are they open for business? And I would seem like we could be the same. We could.
You mean other municipalities?
Well, no. I mean, like the courthouse. Like, what is it?
They're open all day, every day, to the public. Yes.
With restrictions, with masks, yeah,
social distancing, but it's open. The courts have not started jury trials back yet, but they do have sessions. They alternate so they can clean the courtrooms, but it's open. We were closed for 2 months to the public from April until the end of June last year, but it's open. Some people still work staggered schedules. I wonder what other municipalities are doing. Do you have any idea, Jane?
I think it's all over the map. Some of them have reopened. Did media reopen, Bob? Do you know?
They have.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But they don't have. Well, I should say, the municipal offices have opened. They do have a community room and a parlor. I don't know that they're allowing those to be occupied.
Right.
But they don't have the kind of fall-in traffic that Swarthmore does. You know, where you see tutors and students meeting in the hallways and things like that.
I mean, if you don't want people in that lobbyway, you could move that table.
Yeah, there actually is not usually, there is a table out there right now, but there is not usually the case. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I would just take the table away.
Yeah, we can put up signs. You know, I think people are getting used to looking around, seeing, is this a place I can stay or not?
Bob, I believe when we closed all this, we did it with a motion and a vote. Do we need to do that now?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to recall. It was so long ago.
I am too.
I thought it was part of the emergency.
I think you're right. I think that's the case. And I think you should have a motion to, lift the closing of Borough Hall, but continuing social distancing requirements.
Was that the same thing, Mary, as the emergency declaration?
I think it's part of the emergency declaration, yes. I don't think we did anything separately, but we may have the first time we had a Zoom council meeting. But Marty, do you remember? Didn't the emergency declaration close Borough Hall? I'm pretty sure.
I have it here. It did not.
It didn't.
It did not.
It was part of the discussion that we had at the time, but I don't think that it was exactly formally part.
Mary, I'm not sure I would recommend that. It was pretty simple. It had 2 points. The effects of the COVID-19 coronavirus in the borough constitute clear and present danger to life or property. The disaster emergency declared by the mayor and the resulting enabling of the provisions of the code shall continue until further action is taken by the mayor to declare the end of such disaster. I don't know that we're declaring the end of the disaster yet.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, and is it accurate that Borough Hall was closed consistent with the governor's order?
It was.
I think that it was one of the many things that, that shut down as an operation of state order. But,
well, we also closed all the parks. Well, I mean, I know there was a discussion about it, and I thought a vote on doing it, but if there wasn't, that's fine. And but if you think we should vote to do this, we'll do it. If not, we don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, changing the status quo, which is what is being proposed right now, I think you should do by a vote.
Okay. Betsy Larson, you want to make the motion?
I was actually going to request that we vote next week in the legislative meeting. I prefer that the traditional format, because I think it gives us time just to all mull this over a little bit and make make sure that we don't have it's not super emergent, right? So if we could take the vote next week, I would prefer that. If other people want to vote this week, fine. I like that thinking period that occurs in the week. So that's just me.
That's fine. Well, I think, Jane, you were trying to track what the library was doing was all.
We were kind of open. The doors are open, so we're kind of open. So that's fine.
So does anybody else have a problem with waiting till next Monday to vote on this? And then who knows, we might hear from the public in the meantime saying you better not, or that's great. We might.
Sure.
Okay, so.
All right, I'll put it on the agenda.
Okay, very good. Thank you all.
And think about the amphitheater too, while you're at it.
Yes, that was part of it. Okay,
Right.
got it. Use of college woods. All right, Betsy. This is you drafted the language. You would like to send a letter to the college, I think the president, maybe. So you had circulated something that Jane attached to the agenda. So do you want to talk about that and maybe make a motion?
Well, again, I'm comfortable voting on it next week.
Okay.
I didn't get any reply. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or comments on it. I would still like, I've heard from residents that they are excited about the possibility of having access to the college woods again. So I would still like to send a letter. I don't know whether it goes to the president or the board or all of the above. I guess I'm not that familiar with the administrative organization over there, but that's why I addressed it pretty loosely. So yeah.
Well then let's do this. We can have a motion and a vote on it next week. Did anybody want to ask Betsy about it or talk about anything about it now? Ross.
Given the fact that the mayor asked the college and they responded and they made a public statement in the newspapers, I don't see any point to it. I would not vote for it. Just that's the way I feel.
What was the public statement? Sorry, I don't.
Well, Greg Brown made a statement. I think he was quoted in the newspaper saying, we understand the public would like to use this, and we hear that, and we want to open it as soon as we can, but we can't open it now.
I understand also the need for us to keep communicating with the college about this. I know it's something the community wants. It's something that we all want. But I think ultimately it's the college's responsibility and their decision. I'm not sure that I feel really comfortable with this being the vehicle of communicating with the college. We've got a good relationship with them. We're able to talk to them pretty openly and freely about these issues. If council would like to do it, that's up to council. But my own preference is to keep communicating the way we have, which is just person to person. Greg is pretty open to talking to any one of us, I'm sure, as well as to the public if they want to communicate with them directly. So it's up to council how they want to handle it. I'm not truly completely comfortable with it.
Jill.
I feel similarly. It feels like we're trying to. I'm very excited for the woods to open. And the campus to open. I personally use them a lot, and I would be very happy if they changed course on this. But having been in the meeting where this was discussed, which is the college public safety meeting, they're doing what they think is in the best interest of their staff and students. And it feels like we're trying to force our will upon them, and I don't think it's going to have any effect. I think they're going to continue to do what they want to do, and they know that the town is anxious to get back. So I guess it feels kind of pushy, and I wouldn't be comfortable, though I understand, completely understand the sentiment. I don't see that we have any kind of power to force or even request that they do something that they're just not yet ready to do.
I guess I think they'll do it anyway, whether we write a letter or don't write a letter. at some point they'll decide to reopen the campus to people. My observation is last summer when we did go for walks over there and there were signs all over the place that said wear a mask, I was shocked at how many people did not have a mask on. And I think that this is just me kind of being get off my lawn, but it's their property, and if you are going to use it, they're letting you use it, you really should respect their rules. And right now the Crum Woods are closed, and I know people still go there. But at any rate, let's do this. Betsy, think about it. You're welcome to make your motion next week. Let's see where it goes. People can vote yes or no. People can second the motion or not. But you're certainly welcome to make it. Okay?
And like you said, maybe the public will weigh in on this one too.
They might. They might. All right, so I think that's it for this part of the meeting. Thank you for all the thoughtful discussion. That was great. So now we're going to do our committee reports. Environment, Lauren.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The main thing that we did at the Environment Committee meeting in March was we talked about this Energy Transition Task Force. First, quarterly report, and you'll recall back in September 2019, Borough Council approved our participation in the Ready for 100 initiative, in which the borough is going to strive for 100% renewables, renewable electricity by 2030, and 100% renewable for transportation and heating by 2050. And so this is now, the first quarterly report is just kind of telling us how this particular committee, the task force, has been set up, what its mission is, how it's going to operate, and what it's going to do. And it's also asked us for a little help with some things. So Annie Fox, Robin Schaffler, and Sue Edwards are currently on this task force, and they're actively looking for a couple more volunteers. They had a couple people in mind. The group will be submitting these quarterly reports to us on a regular basis. So and I hope you all have had a chance to read it. It's nothing that we're voting on. It's just so that we're all really familiar with what this process is going to entail. I especially want to point you toward the idea of how the Energy Transition Task Force wants to develop good working relationships with the 14 largest energy users in the borough, which would include the college, churches, schools, and larger property owners like condominiums, and people who own a lot of properties, apartments or whatever. And the Energy Transition Task Force can help these entities save energy and often save money. And so they will be asking these large energy users to produce some data so that they can help analyze how they could save energy using a number of different methods. And the Energy Transition Task Force will also be looking to have a small budget line specifically. So Finance Committee, take note of that so that they don't have to keep asking every year. For as long as this is going, they might need a certain but small amount every year. For example, for monitoring of the program and to promote the program. And note that the public-facing part of the program is called Swarthmore Switches. So that's. Are there any questions about this from anyone?
Ross.
A couple questions. Thanks very much for the work on it. And I take it that, Robin, you and I had talked at some length about this. So I'm taking that this is not like the when the borough set up the borough's task force. This is an independent task force. Is that right, Lauren?
Ross, okay. This task force, as is stated in it, was selected. It happens to be people who are all on the EAC right now, but not everybody on it is necessarily going to be on the EAC. It's a group that was trained specifically by. It's listed in the report.
Yeah, I read it, and
okay.
I get that part. My question is a specific question, which is that the government can set up its task force, and then it's the government's task force. I think, like with the elder, the aging in place, Borough Council declared that it was setting up a borough task force. So my question is, I read in the document that this is a independent nonprofit, that it's a association. So my question is, what is it? Is it a borough task force that has the power and authority of the borough, that's tasked by the borough, and it's the wing of the borough like the Aging in Place task force was? Or is this a private task force that comes to the borough, presents its findings, and asks for the borough to do various things, like in conformance with that?
Lauren, if I may?
Sure.
It's my understanding that it is a private task force. They're affiliated, I believe it's with the Sierra Club. That's where they're getting the training, but it is a private task force, which, one of the things they discussed is that they're not bound by the Sunshine Laws because they are not affiliated with the government anyway. So they're actually, I think, although they're making recommendations to us, they're making recommendations to the EAC so that the EAC can then choose to make recommendations to us. So,
Thank you. That answers. And then I had a couple of other questions. One was, Lauren, you just brought up about the funding and the finance committee. I hadn't thought about this before, but a question for the solicitor. I remember when I came on council, Bob, you said the borough code authorizes certain organizations to get funding. So I'm just curious, does this fall into one of those authorized categories?
The
time to look at that, I don't know.
Yeah, state law.
I remember there's a list, like senior citizens organizations.
Yeah.
There's like a list of permitted organizations that we can give money to.
Yes, and an EAC, the likelihood is not. But I can confirm that.
Okay. Another question I had, because this is very important. This is, one of the key issues in society right now, and it's very complex, as we all know. So, I looked at it and I read it, and it raises interesting questions. So, one question I had was, I remember when I think it was the EAC came, I tried to look it up, came in front of the council in 2018. It was the December 4 session with the cap and trade policy. And it was a very long 300-page document, and I think, Annie, you presented it to us, and we were asked to approve that. I remember we were asked to approve it. I don't remember if we adopted a resolution or how we handled that. My recollection was that it had to do with rulemaking in Harrisburg. I have it. I mean, I kept it. It's all about cap and trade. And I remember the one thing I didn't like about that. I remember voting for it, but I remember one thing I really didn't like about it was that the documents said that the cap and trade thing had to involve nuclear, and that was a required part of it. And I kind of didn't like that because I don't like us backing nuclear, but it was in there, and it was kind of like, this is something we have to do the cap and trade. So I remember that from that meeting, and when I read the description for this one, it's all electric, all renewable, which to me would seem to be not nuclear. which make me wonder, have we passed a resolution in 2018 that encompassed nuclear, and now should we go back and undo that? Or are we going to have conflicting resolutions on that? And it's not the end of the world for me, because I don't think Joe Biden or Congress is going to listen to anything I vote on this. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's going to be any outcome to it. But I'm just trying to get straight in my mind, because we did do that thing. Remember, I don't like it, but it included nuclear. And the guy who came in and talked to us, I remember there was this man who talked to us, and he did answer the question on that and said, yeah, nuclear has to be part of it. So it seems we're going in a different direction here. Maybe that's water under the bridge, and we don't even have to remember what we did on cap and trade.
Would you like me to answer?
Yes. If that's okay with Mary, I don't know. It's up to you.
Well, I think we're getting a little far afield, just a smooch. Not because of what you're saying, Ross, but I think if this needs to be looked at further, and it sounds like it does, it can be done in the Environment Committee.
Okay. I just had, they said if anybody has any questions, that was one question that came to mind for me.
Right.
Another idea is we can answer more questions next week. I would like to entertain more questions from people. Maybe not today, but maybe next week. Or people can email me questions. I think Ross is asking good questions.
And maybe Annie could email the group or Lauren to kind of, I remember about the cap and trade. Maybe that could be done in an email.
Yes, let's with the Environment Committee, let's answer some of those questions. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Ross. I do remember that. Okay, Lauren, are you meeting this month?
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure if we are. We probably are, but I'll know next week.
We'll know next week.
I do have a couple more quick little things. The Street Tree Committee, for the Tree Vitalize grant, their 8 homeowners are purchasing trees, and 3 trees will be planted in Little Plum Creek Park, and 1 will be planted at Cades. And they do plan to submit a proposal for free street trees in time for us to approve it in the fall, just as a heads up for that. And the Street Tree Committee is also collaborating with the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society and the EAC to promote native plants. And that's my report.
Excellent, thank you. Michael, if it's all right with you, we're going to go out of order a little bit because Sarah needs to leave us. So we're going to go with general government next. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you very much. The main thing to report is at our last committee meeting, Sarah Matthews presented the applications for the parklets, and we pretty much just it all looked good, and the committee pretty much approved everything as it was. And we had a conversation about a couple things about maybe a need for some more signage, and they were going to put another bike rack. I drove through town. I haven't really been around in town lately, but I did notice that the parklets are up now, and with the new sorry, I'm having trouble finding words, measurements, and I think they look pretty good. I saw that there is a bike rack across the street, and we're just going to keep an eye on it, I guess, as it were, and it seems like it's going pretty well so far. And that's pretty much all I have to report, I think, for our meeting, unless, Jane, am I forgetting something big that happened? Can you help me? I think that was mostly what we talked about, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, I didn't have anything else. No, that's good.
Yeah, so that's pretty much good. We definitely are going to be meeting this month because it seems like we have a bit to talk about, and that's going to be on the 19th at 7:30.
Great. Did you want to hang in a little longer, or do you want to go? Because we have a quorum if you'd like to go.
I'm going to hang in a little bit. Sorry.
Okay, very good. All right, you can.
Sarah, may I jump in for just one quick second? The permit application that we put in for our outdoor dining event over the summer, we had submitted 5 dates to you, and there's a pretty good possibility that one of those dates is going to shift from June 10th to June 17th, because we just found out that the high school graduation is June 10th. So our event committee is going to meet this Thursday, and if we do in fact decide to shift those dates, I will follow up with you at the next meeting. I just wanted to let you know in advance that one date might shift.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. That is something else we discussed, which is that still Thursday nights, right?
Yes.
So, we used to have Thursday Night Live pre-pandemic, and it was pretty well received. Swarthmore Town Center is now going to be sponsoring kind of where they close off part of the street where most of the parklets are in park, and having a little bit of like acoustic music and just a little bit of an event every Thursday night, and it's going to be called, what's it called again? Sarah, can you help me?
A Night in the Ville. It'll just be 5 nights over the summer.
Yeah, so those 5 different Thursdays, and we did, I think we did approve those permits too. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I need to make sure that's in the minutes. So that's it.
Okay, all right. You can shut yourself off if you want. That's up to you. All right, so Michael, back to you. Finance.
Yes. We did not have a committee meeting this past month. I think we will be having one this month, the 26th. That will be the Monday at 7:30 p.m., but details to follow. Hopefully the information we need for that meeting will come together, and we'll have it this month. The other item I have on the agenda is that Paula Schaffner has graciously agreed to fill out Joan Band's term on the Swarthmore Borough Authority, and that ends in 2022. So I would like to make a motion to appoint Paula Schaffner to fill out her term on the SBA.
Is there a second?
Second. I love Paula.
Thank you, Jill. Any discussion or questions for Michael? And so everybody knows Joan moved out of the borough.
The nerve.
Doesn't sound like it. All right, so all in favor of appointing Paula Schaffner to fill out Joan Band's unexpired term on the Swarthmore Borough Authority, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Please tell Paula thank you for us and that Jill loves her.
That's all I have, Mary.
Thank you. All right, Jill, public safety.
Hi. So we did meet as a committee on March 16th. We had discussion on several important points. First was fire safety. So most people know that I'm an owner in a small business, and we had an incident where there was a fire, where there was a situation that could have led to a fire. It did not. And we realized that we were not monitored by the alarm company, so the fire department was not automatically called. Anyway, that drove the discussion. Rick really led the discussion, actually. And what I believe the committee is going to work through is a change to the use and occupancy standards. And as I understand it, and Jane, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, that this would not require an ordinance change, right? Because we're empowered to change, as we've done, the use and occupancy standards as council sees fit. Is that correct?
By resolution.
By resolution.
Okay, great. So by resolution, which I guess would still require advertising and such.
No, that's it does not. That's the big difference. It doesn't require advertising cost or the waiting period.
Okay, thank you. So the committee will be working on that with the assistance of Rick to require, at least at a high level, require when there's a change in ownership or use, that the building be monitored, centrally monitored for fire. And then I know Dottie had brought up, and it's important because it did come up as well, is what else could we do? Is there a way that we could require something like a yearly inspection of properties to, and we don't know where we can go with this because this discussion has just started. But we want to talk about what we could do: yearly inspection of all buildings in the borough for fire safety. So stay tuned, and we'll be working on that, and we will report back. So that was that discussion on fire safety. And we also talked about this ongoing issue of borough towing, and there was a lot of back and forth about, the best way to handle the towing arrangement. And I think where we landed is that we're going to try to formalize an arrangement with a towing company, so local business can still, be part of the works, but that the actual arrangement, the agreement between the borough, there's no agreement now. There will be an actual agreement between the borough and a towing company, but we still have this to work on and discuss, and hopefully by next month, we will have something to bring back to full council, such as a contract with a towing company with certain criteria. We talked a little bit about, or Ray discussed the radio communication issues that police officers were having, some kind of atmospheric interference, but it sounds like the county is going to be providing new radios, and we do not have to pay for them. They're kind of expensive. I believe that the county foots the bill. That's correct? The other issue, or the other discussion point, was simply that SRS being back in person for learning. There is an officer stationed outside the school, and it sounds like Thursdays and Fridays, morning and afternoon, and that's sort of subject to observation and what's needed for that. As far as the fire company report went, Rick reported that there was a drop in COVID rates, which is wonderful, and that April might be the month when the station opens up again, but I guess not yet, so that remains to be seen. And lastly, we talked about the Rutledge Police contract, which will be up at the end of 2021. Mayor Marty met with Mayor Cunningham. It sounds like it's going to go out for bid, and we will participate in that. I guess everything has been going fine, and we want to still be part of that process. We will be meeting again this month, April 20th at 7:30 by Zoom. And that's what I have. Any questions about anything?
I have a question. Is the Rutledge contract going out for bid? Is that something new?
I believe it is something new. Marty, is that your understanding?
We've got I think it was a 5-year contract, and it's coming due. And so they, I think doing due diligence, they want to make sure that they're getting the most for their money and make sure that all things in the contract are being, delivered. My communication with Kevin Cunningham was very positive. I think they appreciate everything that our department does for them. I don't think there's been any issues relative to performance. They may have some concerns about money. We'll just have to see when the time comes. But I know that they are certainly satisfied with the way things have been handled over the last many years. So I'm encouraged that we'll be able to continue. But again, we will be one of the bidders of the contract when the time comes. I'll keep you informed. You'll be aware of what's happening.
Great. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Public Works, Ross.
So we did meet on March 25, and a couple things came up. For quite a while, the foreman has been reporting that we need to replace some of the playground equipment in the tot lot, Thatcher Park, and he's been investigating that, and he just made a report on that, looking at pricing and what we could do. There was no action taken. It was just a report on that, but that's something that's going to be coming up because some of that equipment is no longer any good. the manager reported on the reports about some citizens had reported that there were dead fish in Little Crumb Creek in the park, and that Aqua had apparently registered that they did that. They had a water main break, and that the chlorinated water went into the stream, and that was the cause or something like that. And the manager reported on, their directions on the website about how citizens can report these things. So it's unfortunate that happened. Then let's see. We had some discussion about putting a picnic table in Paulsman Park down by Cades. The committee was in favor of that. That's a park that we maintain, that the borough maintains. And then we had the discussion about the porta potty in Little Crumb Creek Park. So a few years ago, porta potty was put in, and then during the pandemic, it was taken out during the pandemic, and then there were 2 or 3 citizens who came in to request that it be put back in. There was one set of residents who had complained about it before and wanted it removed before, and there were comments by Lauren and myself from various positions on it. There was no action voted on. It was kind of a tie between Lauren and me, and Lauren for it. And my position was that I don't want to go back to just saying, let's put a porta potty in the park without knowing how we're doing it, where we're putting it, or whatever. I was not satisfied with the presentation. And because location is everything where you put a porta potty. And there were some very helpful comments from Robin Schaffler, who pointed out there are some technical ways that you can get a lock on a porta potty to reduce the problem of the banging door at night, which is a noise problem for neighbors. So there was a good discussion. I walked the park again today myself to look at locations. It'll be on our schedule for the next month to talk about it again. I'll probably talk with the Friends of the Park and other people in the meantime about some of those issues. So that was the porta potty discussion. And then I don't want to steal the manager's thunder on this, but she can talk about it. But she did report, I do want to give her some praise, that we had that big rain a couple of weeks ago, a really big flooding rain, and the Princeton Avenue tunnel was dry. And that had been a flooding problem, and the manager has worked diligently for years with the college, and the college made some changes to their stormwater controls, and so that was quite a positive development that important tunnel was dry. That's like comes under important but boring, but it's really good because people walk through that tunnel. So I'd just like to praise the manager for her persistence on that. And then finally, the last thing I'll say is that a bunch of emails came in on the Aqua purchase of Del Cora before the PUC. I need to go through them and read them. And I glanced at some of it. It's fairly detailed stuff, but as you recall, the PUC judges, the 2 judges, had recommended to deny the sale of Del Cora. That went to the commission itself, which is kind of a political body, and the commission issued a ruling because a couple of the parties in the thing had settled, some of the facts have changed, and apparently, and I didn't really see where this happened, but in their statement they said that Aqua's now changed its position. Rather than take the $960 million and pay it to themselves from the trust, that they would actually pay it to the people, individuals who it wouldn't be a credit on their bills. They'd actually issue checks to people. But I didn't actually see where they actually ever said that they were going to do that, but the commission referred to that. So there's been a lot of stuff going on there. It's going to take me a while to go through it. Bob will want to go through it too. And send a report. The bottom line is the commission sent it back to the judges to start all over again. And Aqua had actually asked the PUC to put it off. Aqua said, we want you to put this off for at least 6 months. And then the county said, you can't do that. Legally, you can't put it off. So it's litigation, it's back and forth, but I'll send a summary and Bob and I will talk about that. But it's not happening. The sale of Del Cora isn't happening right now because nobody's authorized it. So that's that, and we will have a meeting, our regular meeting, which would be April 22nd at 8:30 in the morning. And that's it.
Betsy has a question for you.
Sure.
Concerning the fish die-off, the other aqua thing.
Yes.
Is there anything that we can do to try and prevent that from happening in the future? I mean, it might not seem like that big a deal on one level to have treated water flood the creeks, but if we're having a fish die, I mean, that's a pollution. And so I guess I'm just curious, and I don't know if the Environment Committee should take this up, but if there's anything we can ask of Aqua to try and prevent that sort of thing from happening going forward.
Yes.
I did want to mention that break was not Aqua's fault. It was Aqua's water that got into the creek, but it was actually part of the gas job that's going on. So they were, as I understand, PECO was replacing the gas line up there. People have probably seen the work. And something happened to undermine the hydrant, and that's where the water came from. I assure you, having been in this position myself of having a sewer break at the very beginning of my career, some of you were around then, Reckley was, I know, DEP takes these breaks very seriously, and the fines are quite substantial when they happen. That's why I did kind of want to get out there that in this particular case, it will probably be PECO who will be found at fault and have to pay the fine. We all report them very quickly. My understanding is that Aqua acted actually very quickly, but they just could not get the dechlorination in as quickly as possible. I really bet you don't see a role for local government here. I think we all who work in the streets know what our responsibilities are. We know what the fines are when we make a mistake. And we're pretty careful to follow state guidelines. We called in the dead fish ourselves, and DEP already knew that there was a problem. It had been reported by Aqua. So I think it's a pretty good process. I would like to somehow get the way to report it on our website a little bit better. It's been on there for years, but it's not really apparent. So I do think that's an important thing we can do, because the sooner you get that information out there to whatever the regulatory agency or the agency that can fix it, I think that's very important. And that is something I think we could do a little better.
Yeah, and I wasn't thinking blame as much as even if there's anything we could do to shore up the creek to protect it in some way from these types of incidents. I guess they don't happen very often, but even once, like you're saying, that with the sewer leak can be pretty catastrophic. So, I don't know if there's anything along those lines that would even be possible.
Not that I know of.
Jane, I looked at coming down North Chester Road, like coming down from Baltimore Pike to the light where Swarthmore Ave is. And then there's that brick house on the left, and the creek goes under the road there. So I noticed that PECO had cut there, and I wonder whether that's where the water got into the creek. Oh,
The water got into the creek. It came down Elm Avenue and got into the creek. Yes, at that point.
Yes. Okay.
That's on Swarthmore Avenue.
One thing I forgot to mention, Betsy, you've jogged my memory. I did take a course, a Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs course a week and a half or 2 weeks ago on our municipal obligations around stormwater, which they talk about MS4 as an acronym for that. And it was a very good course. So it was very detailed. It was by an expert on this. He went through the state obligation, went through the obligations. I intend to report on that to the Public Works Committee and talk with the manager about that and about our engineer. And the manager provided me with a question to ask them, and they did answer the question about our obligations. And it's a very important issue. That has to do more with sediment in the streams than like an active pollutant, but that is a challenge for all municipalities, and they made it clear in this course that the law was designed for like a county size organization to be doing these things, but in Pennsylvania they've applied the obligations to like little boroughs and townships, even though we don't have county size resources. But there are some interesting things that they said, and it sparked some ideas for me, and I may be coming back to this body with some suggestions after consulting with the manager and the engineer about some things that we can do, because we do have to satisfy that, and they gave me some ideas which I kind of liked. So that's it.
Thank you, Ross, very much. All right, other business. Does anyone on council have any other business to bring up?
Wait, I missed the zoning.
Oh, Betsy, I'm so sorry. I got myself messed up when I took Sarah out of order. I apologize. Planning and zoning.
It's okay. I don't have any report. However, we do have a candidate to become a new alternate on the Planning Commission, which is Doug Harnsberger, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And we can take a vote on him next week. And I am still looking for some alternates for the zoning hearing board. So if anyone knows anyone who's interested in serving the community, there's been at least a couple occasions where we've needed the alternates to reach a quorum on the zoning hearing board. So I would really like to have at least one alternate, if not a couple, for that. So I know I'm harassing people, and I'd like to invite other people to harass their friends and neighbors to join the zoning hearing board.
Okay. Thank you, Betsy. Sorry about that. All right, now, other business. All right, I'm not hearing any other business, so now we go to, Jane.
Bringing on the chief. I think he has a little report on a new car and a resolution that will be on the agenda for next week.
Well, why isn't that under public safety?
Because I just found out about it today. So Ray can talk about it. Sorry.
Well, I'd like you to, let's hold on a second though. If you want Ray to talk about that, do it in your part of the meeting, because Marty is about to do his part of the meeting. Okay? Marty?
Yes, I'm here. I'll wait to hear Jane's part of the meeting so Ray can talk about the new.
No, actually, I'd like you to go. We're going down the agenda. We're all being very polite, so I'll be impolite. Could you just go, Marty? It's your turn.
Yes, and I have no report, so I will pass my time to whoever is next.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now the next thing we have is the second public comment period. Is there anybody who would like to make? There is. Sarah Matthews would like to make public comment.
Hi there, yes, I would just like to mention, so I'm the new town coordinator for those of you I have not met yet. I just want to mention that our beautification or cleanup day is scheduled for Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 11th. We have about 25 volunteers already signed up, and we will be working on cleaning up the planters around the parklets and also the tree wells. So we would love to see any of you who are available. Hopefully weather permitting is nice. We'd love to see you come out and join us.
And when is that, Sarah? This Saturday?
This Sunday from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? All right, not hearing any. Now we're going to go to our borough manager, who is ceding some of her time to our police chief about the car.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Mary. I just wanted to report, last week we were able to take possession of our new patrol car. I have a resolution that I sent over to Bob just for review, and it'll be talked about. It'll be sent out and it can be looked at and voted on possibly next week. But I just wanted to let you know that the discussion that we've had last year about police department purchasing a hybrid Ford Explorer, that car is in and it is in service, and that we are monitoring exactly what its reliability ratings are, and obviously its impact on our fuel consumption and such things like that. So far, it's only been in service over this weekend, but the amount of times that we've had to fill it up have been greatly reduced just over these last couple of days. So just stay tuned.
Well, thank you. So this will be a resolution that we'll get a draft up during the course of the week, and we'll vote on it next week.
Yes, and it has to do with the basically with the allocation of the funds.
All right.
The financing resolution.
Okay.
Required by the leasing company or the one.
I think we've done this before. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Jane.
Sorry, thanks. I did receive notification from Steve Goldfeld, who is the attorney for the Swarthmore Borough Authority, that the college is going out for a bond issue in this year, and he is planning to come to the, as along with representatives from the college, to the June 7th work session of Borough Council and hold what's called a TEFRA hearing, which stands for Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, at which point they will tell Borough Council what the borrowing is for, how the money will be used, and then at the June 14th meeting, they will ask Borough Council to pass a health, safety, and welfare resolution in support of the financing. So I wanted to put those dates out there in advance. And I think Steve is thinking of holding a little information session. I don't think he's quite put that together yet. In general, I think about tax-exempt financing. So I'll certainly let council know if that date comes forward. I just heard a little bit about that.
When you say an information session, is that for council?
I think what he said in an email, if you give me 1 second, I will tell you. On this particular one, on this particular bond issue, he has to come and hold the advertised TEFRA hearing.
Right.
But then he was talking about holding, I guess he wanted to see if there was any interest. Sorry, I'm having to pull it up. I'll send it to council. I don't want to hold people up now.
It's not that, but I think that's a council meeting. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to do, because
I think it's more of like almost like a webinar. It's more like learning about tax exempt financing in general. So I don't think it would be anything that would be council action. That would be the TEFRA hearing and then the resolution in June.
Bob, what do you think of that?
Not quite sure what the proposal is, but if he is, I mean, he could appear at a council meeting and give a presentation on tax exempt financing in general if people were interested, or he could distribute some materials. I don't quite understand what his proposal is, so let me see it.
I would like the solicitor to look at that. It kind of sounds like an executive session on something ahead of having a public hearing on it.
I think it was more of essentially like the webinars that I send you from the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs.
Except
information, but I don't know. He sent me a very general email.
Okay, but except he's coming before us with the college to ask us to do something. So that's why I'm sort of raising my hand and asking about it. So, Bob, all right, thank you. Solicitor.
Thank you, I don't have anything tonight.
All right, so what we need now is a motion to
Just very quickly, I think Satya had a question in the chat and I didn't know how to answer it. It's just about a meeting.
I didn't see it. I try to discourage people from using the chat, but I get that they probably think they're not allowed to talk, but that's what the public comment is for. So
She had a really good question that can be answered really quickly, which is planning and zoning meeting in April?
is it Betsy or Jane? The committee or?
Yeah.
The committee.
I don't have plans for the committee to meet at this point. I believe that the Planning Commission and the Zoning Hearing Board are both meeting this month. Is that correct, Jane?
Yes, I was thinking about definitely the zoning hearing board. Yes, I believe the planning commission is meeting.
When did we last meet, Betsy?
August, September?
All right, okay. If people on the committee think that the chair should have a meeting, they should just ask her to do that. If that's what this is, I don't know. Is that what this is? Hello? Lauren?
It's not anything.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just asking because I thought Betsy had the same thought. Just why are we asking that? So it sounds like right now there is no meeting of that committee in April. All right, so I am looking for a motion to adjourn out of the regular session of the meeting into the executive session, and we will not be coming back into the regular session after the executive session. So, may I have Thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lauren.